Welcome, everyone. Thanks for listening in. Today we're going to talk about two very different subjects that are covered by proposed rules of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Jack was noting earlier when we were chatting that the CFPB seems to have a penchant for kicking these things out in pairs. So this was our combination today. We're going to talk about the revisions to the high-cost mortgage provisions of Regulation Z, and we're going to talk about homeownership counseling requirements that are just radically changed from anything that we've had before. So we're dealing with Reg X under RESPA, we're dealing with Reg Z under the Truth in Lending Act, and we're going to cover how the rules would expand the coverage of HOEPA, the high-cost mortgage section in point 32 of Reg Z. We're going to talk about the triggers, the test for coverage. We're going to talk about the expanded protections, and we're going to go into detail about the circumstances when you have to provide a homeownership counseling list of counseling providers to prospective borrowers, as well as the instances where you're going to actually have to confirm that the counseling has been obtained before you can proceed with making the loans. These rules are under the jurisdiction of the CFPB, as noted on page 2, and I was telling Jack right before we started, they're changing their rules again for any of you who like to glom on to the double-spaced PDF version of the rules that they come out with initially. I'm telling you, you have to move quickly, because what they appear to be doing now is after some point in time, they replace that with an HTML version, which you can't annotate. So those of you who want to annotate the PDF version need to grab it when you can, because it's going to disappear in no time at all. So, Jack, let's lay some foundation first by talking a little bit about the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act.
Well, we can do that pretty quickly. On page 3, we just give you the background, and hopefully you're very familiar with the old law and regulation, but Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, been around since '74, originally came from HUD last July, transferred over to the CFPB. You know, HUD's always been about closing costs, settlement costs, and everything related to that. Now it's being expanded a little bit, taking on some mortgage counseling rules. Changes come out of the Dodd-Frank Act. We also have more rules today that are going to deal with truth in lending. And folks, that's where the major overhaul's taking place. Mary Beth, I haven't sat down and tried to get a total handle on it, but they keep expanding truth in lending, taking stuff out of RESPA, put it into truth in lending, take new stuff, put it into truth in lending. I mean, this law and regulation is getting so bloated. They could almost split it up into 5 regs, and they would all be huge. But, you know, I just kind of pity anybody coming into the game these days, although, in a way, it's not a bad time to be coming into compliance, because with everything changing, if you can just master what's coming out, and that's a big task, but if you can do that, you'll know as much about truth in lending as anybody in your bank, because it's all changing.
Yeah, but, some of us are going to have to unlearn things that we've learned.
I'm still bad about 12 CFR 226, no, 1026, not 226. Yeah. That's 1026. Yeah, these old habits are hard to break, but again, it's really getting to be a huge regulation, and just keeping straight where they are. You know, we have Section 35, and it's going away, and it's going to become Section 43, but Section 32 is still Section 32. It's a little crazy right now. I'm going a little insane, I think, trying to handle all this stuff, but we're managing. But anyway, on page 4, we talk about the law, the Truth in Lending Act, been out there since 68, Reg Z since 69. And Mary Beth, I think we're, it's kind of hard to draw the line sometimes, but I think we're in the third phase of Regulation Z. We had one set of truth in lending disclosures we lived with from 1969 to 1982. And then we had simplification that actually went into effect October 1st of 82. And we got a new Fed box disclosure. We lived with that until pretty much what we're getting now. And, it's still going to exist on loans that are not secured by real property and dwelling, but we'll have the new disclosures, kind of the third phase of the disclosures. So we'll see how long we live with those. I don't know that I want to be around for the fourth phase, I've lived through 3. I think I've given my contribution.
Well, I just hope that fourth phase doesn't come until we're old and in our rocking chairs talking about our ailments at the home.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, they've been lasting about 20 years a phase. So, again, 20 years from now, I hope I am sitting in the rocker on the porch at the home. It'd be lovely. All right, how about the overview of the first proposal here, Mary Beth, or both of them?
And Jack, I don't know about you, but I've been one of those people who, for many years, has taken the position that on most proposals, I really don't care. Just wake me up when they've adopted the final rule, and then I'll get into it. But as those of you who are listening today have realized, you can't do that on these proposals because they are too voluminous, they're too important, there's so many nuances of them, and so much of what we're seeing in the proposals is mandated by Dodd-Frank. So the CFPB doesn't have a lot of wiggle room. And, Jack, I've heard you say on more than one occasion, you really don't think that there's going to be a lot of major changes between the proposals and the final rules.
No, I don't. One, they put in too many hours already on it. 2, they don't. You said no wiggle room. They don't have a lot of time to make a lot of changes. You got mandated dates starting next January on some of this stuff. I mean, they just don't have time to make a lot of changes. And the banks, once we get the final regs flowing, which will start here in another month or 2 months probably, we're going to have final regs in October. We're supposed to have some more in late November, December, several in January. I mean, they're going to be coming one right on top of the other. And if you're looking at those things fresh, you've never looked at them, you'll be totally overwhelmed. If you aren't beginning to master it now, you're going to be lost.
It's like peeling an onion. You've got a lot of different layers in there, and you have to keep peeling back the layers to get into more and more of the heart of the regulation. So we're in phase 2 of peeling back with.
Okay, I thought you were going to say peeling the onion because it brings tears to your eyes. So you were going in a different direction than I thought. That's a good analogy.
I would cry over these regulations, but I'm choosing to see them as an opportunity.
There you go.
If you compliance officers listening aren't looking at the stacks that you've printed out right now and thinking, my institution needs me, they really, really need me, you should be, because you're invaluable and they can't do without you. So over on page 5.
Let me give one more comment on it, because I like what you just said. It is an opportunity. And going back through my phases, when simplification happened in 82, it was an overwhelming change. And there were a lot of bankers that all of a sudden came on the scene. There was also a lot of consultants that did, myself included. I mean, that's when I got into the business, was when that change happened. Bankers were overwhelmed by it, and I was there and started talking about it. And, that's when my career in training and consulting got launched. And, others who are now speaking on these topics, a lot of us came into the game at that time. So there'll be a new crop coming along as result of this opportunity.
And there may be some who just say, to heck with it, I'm out of here, I'm going home. There's going to be a Darwinian component to this. Now, some of you who are listening may never have made HOEPA-covered loans before. You've just assiduously avoided making loans that would fall under point 32 of Reg Z. So it's important to you to know that they're changing what's going to be covered. They're expanding the type of mortgage loans that are going to be subject to HOEPA, and they're changing and expanding the triggers for coverage. And then if you end up with loans that are covered, or maybe all along you've been making HOEPA loans, you want to also realize that there are some additional restrictions on those, including this pre-loan counseling requirement. Now, the pre-loan counseling requirement can come into play in other circumstances too, and we'll talk about that. In some instances, it's simply a matter of giving a copy of the list of providers. In other instances, such as a HOEPA-covered loan, you've got to confirm that they actually obtained the counseling. The